Stress and anxiety are a major problem for a lot of people right now. And you have to find peace in the storms of life. Jesus let his disciples go through a storm and put them on a boat to cross the Sea of Galilee right when a storm was about to hit. There were big waves coming across, almost knocking the boat over and filling it with water. But in the middle of the storm, Jesus was sleeping in the stem of the boat on a cushion. The disciples were all stressed out and thought they were going to die and came to him saying, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" But when they woke him up, he rebuked the storm and it went away. And they made it safely to the other side. We are called to be as Jesus as much as we possibly can. One thing Jesus never did was let worry and stress take over his life and change his thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Jesus slept during the storm, and so should we. He let his disciples go through that storm, as well as many other similar situations like that, because he wanted to build their faith. And God might let you go through many storms to build your faith and get you closer to him. Stress is a major cause of illness, bad behavior, addictions, and broken relationships. 75 to 90% of all doctor's office visits are for stress-related ailments and complaints. We developed a fight or flight response, which is a technical term for stress, during the caveman times, and the fight or flight response enabled us to fight off saber-toothed tigers and other predators and down woolly mammoths for dinner. But we were never designed to be in this state of mind 24/7. Cortisol is a stress hormone that comes with the fight or flight response, and it can play a part in problems like insulin resistance, headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, skin conditions, asthma, arthritis, depression, anxiety, and even cancers. Stress and worry is an epidemic in our society, and so is a lack of faith. Jesus did have the power to stop the storm and get the disciples to land safely. We do not have supernatural power to change nature, but we have been given the power of faith and the power of surrender. You need to keep the faith that God will be with you during your storm and use your suffering for your greater good. Many times God will allow you to suffer through storms in your life because going through the storm enables you to get closer to him and develop resilience and discernment for a future filled with blessing. The more spiritual maturity you develop, the more immune you will be to the storms that come into your life. There are some storms that are unavoidable and some storms that we create ourselves. An example is you are stressed out or lonely or something bad happens and you turn to drugs and alcohol. What you're doing is creating a second storm on top of the storm you already have, because oftentimes that addiction will stay with you even after that first storm has passed. So that's an example of creating a second storm in your life. And we create layers of storms on top of one another that become very hard to get out of. And we end up living in a storm all our life, not only making ourselves miserable, but everyone around us miserable. Another example is jumping into a relationship because you're lonely. Jumping into a relationship with the first person that comes along. Or something like that. There's so many different variations of it. But oftentimes we pick people just because we're lonely and we don't worry about whether they're right for us or whether they'd be a good partner or whether they're trustworthy. But when you get into a relationship and you develop feelings, you become tied to that person and you create a bond and a soul tie. And what happens is, if you pick the wrong person to build that tie with, you are creating a storm that could affect you for the rest of your life. So that's another example of a second storm you create on a first. Loneliness is not nice, but you'll just be even more miserable if you jump into a relationship with the wrong type of person and you don't use your discernment and your self-control to decide who to be with. When you go through the storm, it's important to rest. It's important to take the time to rest in God's peace and know that even though you may not have the power to fix things right away, and it may not happen on your timeline, that God will provide you a way out. And he will use it for your greater good. Even if you can't see how that's going to happen and how what you're going through will eventually make you a stronger person, a more wise person, a more faithful person. You'll see it in the future. I've been through many storms: cancer, breakups, losing people in my family that I loved. And after each one of those storms, I became a better person. And it took many of them to build my faith and get me close to God and help me get the kind of life that I wanted. And I really did not understand why I had to go through cancer or go through heartbreak or lose family members that I loved. But now I understand it 100% crystal clear. So you may not understand the reasons for what you're going through right now, but I promise, my friends, I promise you will. You have to surrender when you're in the storm. Do what you can. Do what your conscience tells you to do. But when you're done for the day and you've worked diligently to dig yourself out of whatever hole you're in, you have to rest like Jesus did in the stern of the ship. And know that whatever it is, even though you might not understand it, will work out for your greater good. And God will not give you anything that he cannot handle for you. He's doing it for a reason. He doesn't create the problems in your life. He never does. He wants you to have a great life. The enemy puts it there and you put it there with your wrong decisions. But he also has the power to take that away immediately. But he doesn't want an army of robots as followers. He gave us free will to make decisions and to live our lives freely. So the reason God lets you go through storms in life is for the specific reason of building your faith up, getting you closer to him, making you stronger, and giving you discernment. And if you are able to sleep during the storm and rest in God's peace and have a strong faith and build that faith, use the storm for the purpose of the storm instead of feeling self-pity and feeling angry with God, and you build your faith during those times and rest in the storm, stay in the storm with stability and a good attitude about it, you will be rewarded, and God pays you back 10 times for your suffering, what you went through. I love you guys. I care about you, and I'll talk to you soon.